So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to How Does the Order of Operation in Tableau Work? I'm Sarah Lean, and I'm moderating this session, and I will hand it over to Marnaz, the expert on Tableau.
Let's see about that. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for coming to my session. And we are going to go over order of operations as much as we can. So I hope you had a good time so far. Let's get started. All right. So again, I said my name is Mernaz. I'm a BI developer working at Dapper, and that stands for Data Academic Planning and Institutional Research. All right, so when we Tableau is the tool, the analytics tool, the reporting tool actually that we use here. And if you have used it before, you know that order of operations has been a big topic for Tableau developers. And we're going to touch on that a little bit. All right, so what I have today is I have some slides, but I also have some workbooks that I created, which demos some of these features. It would be great if you could put your questions in the chat and I get to them at the end. I want to make sure that I can cover all of this. Thank you so much. All right. Let's get started. Okay, so if you have developed reports using Tableau, you probably have seen this. If you have not, this is the map of order of operations. So what is that? So when we are dealing with data in our report, sometimes we filter data, or we manipulate that and things like that. And when there is a racing condition happening between them, we have to refer to this to see which one applies first and which ones take precedence, and so on and so forth. Based on this mapping, before all these things can happen, if you have any filtering in your extract or data source, those are gonna take precedence. And I'm gonna get into that and show you an example of it. All right, so let's take a look at them then. So first of all, these two, extract filters and data source filters, what are they? When we are creating our report, we connect to a data set or data source, which can be anything. It can be either a spreadsheet, it can be a database, and different connections. Now, there are two ways that you can connect to the data source and pull the data in. One of them is through extracts, which loads it for you and packages that with your workbook. The other one is live connection. Okay, so and let me just show you quickly how that looks like, just in case you haven't seen it. There we go. Okay, I'm hoping that you can see my two workbooks that I created. So these are identical workbooks. This part is all the same thing. So at the bottom, data source, if you click on this and go and take a look at the connection for these two, I created some dummy data and I created my demos based on those. It's very similar to Superstore database, if you are familiar with it. If not, it's like a store, taking in orders, has customers, that kind of stuff. And it's not very big. So this one, I am filtering on extract level. So what does it do? On top, if you click this one, you see I'm keeping furnitures only. So that's how this is an extract filter. Now here, I have a data source filter. It's on here that I have to click. So, and I'm gonna get into the differences between them. The same thing, furniture is being only included and everything else not. The difference between these two is here, it is filtered before the extract is built. Okay, so this is the pre-extract. This is after the SQL is run and the data is pulled. So when you look at these two, let me switch back to my slides. Okay, so when you look at them, because the extract filter happens before the data is pulled, it has a lower size. It's smaller than the other one. Versus data source is, okay, all the data is pulled and then it is being filtered. So just be aware of that. It affects the extract filter, affects the size of extract, and it is pre-extract filtering. With data source filters, however, it does not affect the size of the extract, and it is post-extract filtering. Now, one thing, because extract filters is bound to its extract, if you change your connection to live, that's not gonna be applied because it's an extract filter. So if you are on a live connection, then you have to use data source filter if you are filtering at that level. Okay. All right, so let's keep going. Okay, so these two take precedence. All right, so first of all, extract filters and then data source filters. What's the next one? All right, so from this hierarchy, we see that the next one is the context filter. Let's take a look at it. Our context filter, if you see after data source. So what's a context filter? Now, let's take a step back for a second and look at all the filters that we have in our dashboards and stuff, or on sheets. By default, all filters are computed as standalone. So if I have state and region, they separately filter based on whatever the user chose. And then the result is going to be joined like an inner join or an AND operator. So anything that matches both of them is going to be shown. So now sometimes we want a filter to apply first and then the other one. We want all the other filters to be dependent on this. So that's the case where we add our filter to the context so that the context is built. So first, all the data that is filtered based on that context filter is processed, and then all the other filters are going to be dependent on that. Okay, so they're going to be filtering based on that one first. All right. Okay, so context filters can only filter discrete categorical. There's are some notes that you have to remember. For example, country, state, division, right? This kind of stuff. Again, a context filter is independent from everything else, but all the other non-context filters depend on it. Okay. So one of the reasons that you might have to, or the main reason maybe, to add something to the context is you want to force a filter to be carried out first. And some other notes, if you change your data model, converting dimensions to measures and stuff like that, it recalculates. So just be aware of it. And this is a tip that I found for better performance when you're building your sheet. First, set your context filter and then pull in other fields and stuff. Okay, so let me show you an example of context versus non-context. Share. Okay, so I'm hoping you can see the workbook, and all these are added to my public Tableau public, and I have the link at the end. So if you wanted to go and take a look. All right, so here, the same data set, I am trying to, I'm showing all data for you, and then just these two different ones, different sheets that I have created. Now, this one has the top 2 profitable states of a chosen region. Okay, so I wanted, and let me go to that sheet so that you can see here. I wanted the region to apply first before that. I didn't want them to be running independent of each other. So if I go back and I choose something else, let's say I add these. Is this the one? And things like that. Come on. All right. So I can, it still shows me, it first picks the regions that I have picked, and then top 2 states based on that. But this one does not do that. So if I start with 2 and then I have removed that, we only see one state because they are calculated separate from each other. And then they're joined. But here, no. All right. So the context filter depends on what type of story, what kind of story you're trying to tell. It comes in handy. Let's go back to the slides. All right. So now let's see what else is there other than context filters. So we covered extract ones, data source, context filter. Now everything else is at the bottom. Let's take a look at everything else and see how these are gonna affect each other. Now, the order of operations, based on at least, we knew that top to bottom, but also left to right, based on what I've seen. Like, I've seen that, for example, sets applied before fixed LODs, right? But the top to bottom already applied, like fixed LODs applies before the include, exclude, and things like that. So, okay, so let's take a look at the top to bottom example. Fixed LOD triggers before include, exclude. Let me see, is it gonna open here? Sarah, do you see the screen that shows the browser?
Yes, the
Okay.
order of operations LOD filter.
Awesome, thank you so much. Okay, so here, for example, again, the same data set, we have all data here, and then I created 2 sheets. One is showing fixed LODs, like, and this is include LOD, and this is profit. So it's calculating annual profit. Okay, so now we have all the categories. As we just know from our mapping, is fixed LOD should apply before category. But include, exclude is applied after our dimension. Okay, so let's take a look. So if I take out furniture, we're still good. And let's take out office supplies. So as you can see, this came under 100K, but still there. It didn't get filtered because first, the fixed LOD calculated that already. So it already had all those years in there. So when we remove these, it's not going to affect that. Versus here, the calculation happens after we did this. Okay, so the fixed LOD and include LOD, the fixed LOD happens before that. And knowing this is going to help us in future if we need to move things around the above, like move up or down the mapping. All right, so let's go back. Okay, so that was the top to bottom. Let's take a look at the left to right example. And we have set, we have fixed LOD and top N, and yeah, top N and fixed LOD. Let's take a look at this again. So set is supposed to run before the top N and fixed LOD. And again, top N is supposed to run before this. Let's take a look at this one. Set and LOD. All right, so, okay. Okay, so I created a set for all the states that are the top 5 states. Okay, so that I created that through the set. Now, this one is the total profit range of them. Now, if I move the range, you see that color doesn't change because the set already applied before this. So that's what I'm saying, that when based on my experience, set is applied before the fixed LOD. Let's go back. Another example is the top N and fixed LOD. Yeah. So I have a list of top 10, and it's supposed to say, profit over 100, but it's just changing that is not going to affect my list because it's already, the top N is already applied before this, and things like that. So now, understanding this is not, the order of operation is not always troubling. We can use this to our advantage. And let's take a look at it. Like it actually, we can use this and calculated fields, for example, to handle desired level of details to achieve. So, and I have a couple examples here where I can show. For example, if I want to have a top N subcategory of top N category, if I just have two top Ns natively, they act independent of each other. And you won't be able to do this. But if you use, turn them into LODs, you can actually achieve this goal. So, and this is example. And I can't take credit for this solution. I just followed some somebody's instructions. I have left the link in the resources if you want to take a look. But basically, I turned the top ends into LODs, and now I can actually see the top 3 states of top 2 regions, versus here, the top 3 states, you see one of them is, because it's not included in this, it's just not showing. Depends on what kind of story we're trying to tell. This might be the desired thing, or maybe this is what we are trying to say. But again, we can just, knowing that, we can actually use that to our advantage and tell stories that we wouldn't think was possible. One more example of that one is the reference line. So let's take a look at this. Reference lines, trend lines, these ones are at the very bottom. So that means everything else applies before these are processed. And let's take a look at this one. All right. So here I have 3 different sheets. The top one is for the comparison so that I have all the years. Here I'm using the native average line that comes with the Tableau. And here is what I used, an LOD, a fixed level of details, because I don't want it to change no matter, but let's say I have 40 years of data and I don't want to scroll down. I just want to select whatever year I want to see, but I don't want this to change. So if I, let's say, remove these, you see this one changes, but that didn't change. And that's because we navigated the order of operations to our advantage and moved this over to that, which is gonna beat the year, which could be on any of these. Okay, so it's not always a bad idea to have that. But being aware of this is really, really necessary if we are if we are building more complex workbooks or even simple ones. All right, so a couple notes. By default, all filters are computed as standalone. The result of them is applied with a logical AND operator or inner join. Always, always, always check to see what story you're trying to tell and if what you have matches that, okay? Extract filters are bound to their extract. If there is no extract and you're on a live connection, then there is no extract filters. Navigate order of operations to your advantage. You can turn a reference line into an LOD, and if that's what you are you need for your story. And very, very important, test your work extensively. Okay, if you have people who are experts, check the numbers with them. If you have examples out there, check your numbers with that. So always, always test it. All right, let's see. There are some resources, examples that I was showing. They're available on my Tableau public page. And then some of the things that I used. Makaru is what I use to generate dummy data. It's actually cool. It gives you up to 1,000 lines for free. And it has a variety of fields. And at the end, I have the link to our office. Check it out. Other than that, this is my information. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer. Guess we have a few minutes. Let's see. There is a question in chat. Yes. Yes, Vanessa, I agree. It is very important.
Testing is so important. I was wondering, you kind of talked about the importance of testing. Were there any moments where, or some key pro tips for like approaching testing or knowing when to test?
So what I do is I have connections or people who are experts in things, but usually there are some reports that I can compare my numbers to, or if there are people who would check my number, hey, can you please take, and also with our Tableau workbooks, we have a really strong review process, governance process, that data stewards are going to look at our workbook and play with it before it is published. So we have a lot of support there for testing. When I receive a request to build a report, after it's built and stuff, before I send it for formal review, I connect with my client and give them a window to go in and play with it and see if everything looks as they are, as they expect. And this has been very helpful because they come back say, oh, this doesn't look right, or yeah, this is good, and things like we could do this instead. My clients and stewards and our review process all together, like there is no one source that I go for testing. That was a great question though.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Of course, thank you. Any other questions? Okay. So if there are no questions, then I think you can have your 3 minutes back to your calendar while you transfer to the next session. If there are any questions, please reach out. Other than that, have a great rest of the day.